that door of the past, that we stop breathing, we stop living. So I'm going to jump right in, and I know I sent you a few things that I wanted to talk about, but then I'm going to let you just kind of have a free talk, because I know people are logged in tonight because they want to hear your voice, not necessarily mine tonight. So, but that is okay. I appreciate everybody that is here. We're going to start off talking about your journey, your books as an author. How did that really begin for you?
I actually wrote. A lot of people don't know this because they just know the successful author. They don't know me when I was hustling books out of the garage. I wrote my first book in 2004 after I was greatly disappointed by a promoter from Hollywood, California, who took one of my stage plays on the road without my permission. And I was so devastated by it. However, I still had a love for telling stories. So I wrote a book called Up High, Down Low, Too Slow that was inspired by J.L. King's interview with Oprah concerning the down low men. And because I've been in church my entire life, I knew some men who were living that lifestyle. But that particular interview made me furious because I felt like it was so selfish for people to live a down low lifestyle versus just coming out and being who you are. At least to give women particularly the opportunity to make an intelligent decision as to whether or not they would like to stay in a relationship with a man who prefers bisexual behavior, and so it just made me furious. So that was my first stab at trying to write a book. Didn't know what I was doing, and so I wrote the book, and I will never forget when I saw it. I just broke down into tears because it wasn't what I saw in the stores. I was like, this looks nothing like the books in the bookstores, and so I gave up writing. I gave the books away. I think my family and friends, they bought one out of necessity for me, and so three years later, I met my godmother, Victoria, who's a best-selling author of over 20 books. And I talked to her, and she said, you have a natural talent. You just need, a little work. And so she took the time to mentor me. And so she said, write what you know. Let's do another story. And The Diary of a Mad First Lady was born. And so I self-published that book in 2007. And then in 2008, I got my agent, through Victoria, who shopped the manuscript, and it was picked up by a company out of New York and released to the public in 2010. And so I've been a published author since then. And my first two endorsements came from First Lady Sarita Jakes and Pastor Dr. Bridget Hilliard out of Texas. So the two of them really I credit for launching my sales, my best-selling status, because they really endorsed me and embraced me, and for that I am eternally grateful. And it's just been a journey, but that's how I got started. Just based on something bad happening to me and still having a desire to tell stories, except my stories are based on my life. So it's a little bit different than somebody just making up something. All of my books, whether or not they are nonfiction or fiction, are about my life.
And you know what? That is something that I really enjoyed, because I actually met you at a play with all of one of your books that you had, which was Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and I really enjoyed that play, and I'm glad.
Diary of a Mad First Lady.
Yeah, Diary of a Mad First Lady, right here in at the Epicenter here in Atlanta when that play was done, and I'm glad we stayed connected over that time, because I love the transparency of that information, because if you see it, you would be like, this cannot be somebody's real story. And the thing is, a lot of people do not understand what people go through behind closed doors. Not just the first ladies of a church, but just the people that they've put on pedestals, the relationships they say they want to be just like them. People put their marriages so much into a performance that when things happen behind closed doors, nobody realizes that's not really how they're living. And I think that's something that's really sad in the church, that it has become, our relationships have become a performance. And then the thing is, our youth are so in tune to that performance that they know it for what it really is. And they don't believe in that true union of marriage. They don't believe in the union of the church, because they see so much hypocrisy there. And that is one thing that I love about your ministry, that you are actually trying to help people see the reality of the Christian walk. And that kind of moves me into the next thing about your foundation, Hold On, because it is about the reality of the real struggle of sometimes how we lose our faith in what we call the church, not our faith in God, but sometimes how we lose our faith in the church or lose our faith in mankind. So kind of tell me about how Hold On got started and how people can support and participate in that.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, it's amazing that you bring up the fact that we met at the play. I couldn't remember for the life of me where we met because I met so many people there during those 3 days. But it was after that play that something life-changing happened to me that caused me to spiral into another depression. And I talk openly about my previous 2 suicide attempts. And, I've always known that I wanted to do something regarding suicide prevention, but I had never taken a proactive step to do so. So after the play, something, again, disappointing happened, and it just really took a toll on me because that was supposed to be the show that took off. And so I had so many promises being made, and it turned out that all of it was false, and it's very discouraging to me because everybody was talking about that play and how great it was and this, that, and the other. And I was feeling really good. And so to have that time where it was like you on a high and then all of a sudden you just are down low, like in a matter of days, it just really shook me. And so I was, one night I was trying to figure out, what the next step in my life was going to be because I had so much riding on that play and I had basically forsaken everything else to do that show. And so, one day I was just like, God, why don't you just take my life? Why don't you just, let me die. Like, even though I've tried to kill myself twice and it didn't work, I learned from my mistakes. I know how to do it now. And so I was really, again, seriously contemplating suicide again in 2014. And so, a friend of mine at the time came to my house and he said, step outside for a second because my mom had gotten near my sister and everybody knew something was wrong. I had posted on Facebook for everybody to pray because my mom wasn't right. And so he came over and he said, step outside. And we stepped outside and he gave me a hug. That was it. No scriptures, no bashing, no beating me up, no, making me feel horrible. I felt bad enough. No, DiShan, you should do better than this, or DiShan, you should know better, DiShan, you have the word of God inside of you, you're preaching here, there, and everywhere, you should know better than this. It wasn't none of that. It was just simply a hug. And so that hug, I always say, is what changed my life literally. I've not suffered with suicidal thoughts, since that time. Of course, the enemy tries to bring it up, but I know how to combat it because I know what I need in order to diffuse when I'm feeling that way. And so the very next day after that hug, that life-changing hug, I decided to start the organization Hold On. And right now we are in the process of getting our website built so that people can donate to the cause because suicide is growing in numbers at a very alarming rate. And so what I want to do with the organization is to try and prevent the suicides happening. A lot of times we rally around families once, these things happen. Like, for example, a 16-year-old girl committed suicide in her bathroom last week because some of her friends videotaped her without her permission, put her pictures and video up on Snapchat, and she was greatly embarrassed by it, and so she committed suicide. And so it's, she had talked to her mom about it, and possibly her mom didn't take her seriously. I don't know what the situation, really was, but nonetheless, our goal with Hold On is to try and prevent these sort of things from happening because we want people to know that you have options. And as a suicide survivor, from having attempted, one of the things that make you want to commit suicide is the fact that you feel there is no other option. Like you feel like the only thing that's left to do is to die. And so we want to combat that. And so right now we have a Twitter base that's pretty strong. Erica, my assistant, Erica, down in Texas, she runs that particular Twitter account, and so people can, follow us on Twitter at Hold to Life. And so if you are struggling with depression or you're thinking about committing suicide or whatever, there is something on our timeline definitely that will encourage you and motivate you, as well as information with numbers and contacts that you can talk to people who will be, actually waiting for you to call in or write in to help you get through that moment. Because typically, the person who is thinking about committing suicide, it normally happens on a Monday night. It's like the biggest day for suicide attempts or suicide. And so, but we have somebody that's monitoring this at all times. And so we're connected with other organizations. And so hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to formulate actually in a location based out of Atlanta so that we can start helping people in our city. And then eventually we would like to spread all over the country and have hold-on centers where we would specialize in giving people hugs and, just making people feel loved, because it's really the compassion that brought me out of that suicidal state. It wasn't anything that, I knew the scriptures, I knew what to pray and how to say it, because in church you learn all of that. But sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes you just need a hug. Sometimes you just need somebody to hold your hand and say, look, I got you. Let's brainstorm. Let's figure out how to get you out of the situation. And sometimes that's all it takes to save a life.
Yeah, and you know what? I love that you said it. It's really not that deep, and I think that's something. Maybe in the church, we get so caught up in doing the message that we forget the people that are listening need to be touched in a different way. Sometimes it's not just the word that they need. Like you say, sometimes it's the warmth of that compassion, it's the warmth of that touch. And I think in a technological society, as fabulous as it is that people can dial in, that we can see each other, that we can communicate all over the world in different ways, we sometimes lose that very intimate component that helps us get to that next level. Bring us out of depression, as you say. Bring us out of that place where we just need somebody to listen to. Sometimes when somebody gives you a hug or holds your hand, that lets you know they're in tune. They're actually there with you. And as a mother of a teenager, that is something I really try. And I mean, that's a hard thing as a mother of a teenager, trying to keep up with their emotional roller coasters, because they have them. And I can imagine the things I probably put my mother through on an emotional roller coaster. But I can understand from a teenage, and then there is also a compassion that people need to have for us in the world as women. We are some very emotional creatures. And a lot of times people don't take our emotions very seriously. And as you said, because you're on a high, people don't understand what your expectations were at the end of that event, or what actually you put into it, or you poured out. And a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. For as far as entrepreneurs, people in the church life, how much of yourself that you give to something, and then people kind of take it for granted and kind of walk over you. So it was a time that I could really resonate with when you talk about that you feel that lostness, just that lowness. So as a body of Christians, what we say is we need to realize that somebody else is always going through something. And sometimes they don't need us to give them a scripture. They don't need us to preach to them. All they need us to do is be quiet, hold their hand, give them a hug. And like you say, just let them know we're there holding on with them. And what's that Twitter at Hold to Life?
Yes, at Hold to Life, yes.
At Hold to Life. So I want everybody to actually grab and connect to that, because there are a lot of people who are depressed and they seem like their life is going along perfectly, but all they need is an encouraging word to push them past that place in their life. And I know you are a woman that wears many, many hats, so I'm going to get on another avenue with you. But what I like about your hats, one thing is a lot of people get caught up in a whole lot of titles, and I love the fact that you are just, I am at DiShan. It's not, a whole bunch of fanfare. It's not about all your titles. It's not about all the things that you have accomplished. You stay humble and stay a regular person, because people get caught up in their titles and the things that they do. And when they lose one of those things, they forget who they are. So I love the fact that you stay grounded and in touch with the world of Christ, not the world as far as staying in the world. But
I know, I get what you're saying, yeah.
yeah, but now your title as a Christian sexpert. How did you do that? That's a different hat because that is something that's like taboo in the church. We just don't talk about sex.
Right. Right. Well, it began really in 2011. I was actually still married at the time, and I was desperately trying to figure out what to do to save my marriage. I got it's no secret. It's all over my website and everywhere I talk about it. I got married when I was 16 years old, and I was divorced by 31. And so, maybe the last 4 or 5 years of my marriage, I was, hit with a very harsh reality, and that was I had spent more time worried about the church and the ministry and my title as the First Lady and later on as a co-pastor that I neglected my marriage. And so sexual problems is the third leading cause of divorces among Christians. And so that was something that was an issue. It wasn't that we didn't have sex, it was just that it was not my priority because I felt like as long as I'm running the ministry, as long as I'm doing my duties as a first lady and co-pastor, then that was supposed to be enough for my husband, and not realizing that my first ministry was to my home. Mm-hmm. Not that my home was unkept, but I just didn't focus a lot on my marriage the way that I should. And my husband would say to me, let's not talk about church. But because I was running everything, church was my whole entire life. So that was all I knew. And with that being said, it was like, okay, what am I supposed to talk about? And so once I figured out, what to do, it was really too late. It was too little too late. And so in 2011, I came up with this phrase, Christian erotica, on my couch one day. And so I was asked to write some sample chapters for a new company that was based out of DC. And that is when Christian erotica was actually born. And so from that time to now, I have done something major with Christian erotica every single year. 2013, I wrote, we actually filmed it in 2012. I wrote it in 2012. We filmed the short film in 2012, and it was released to the public in 2013. It's called Let's Get It On. It's on YouTube. You can search in the search bar for Let's Get It On full feature. It's 42 minutes long, and basically the movie is about three married couples who are at different stages in their marriages and also in different places concerning their views on sex and how important it is to marriage. And so I encourage every single married couple to go and watch it, especially those of us who have Christian views and those who have responsibilities of leadership in church. And so anyway, with that being said, I did the movie, and then I did a reality TV show called Sisterhood that aired on TLC back in 2013 as well. And so when I went to film, one of the producers walked up to me and she said, "What do we call you?" And I said, "I don't know." She said, "Okay, well, you're going to be a Christian expert. You're going to be here talking to the ladies about how to spice things up in the bedroom." And that's how that title came about. And so from that reality TV show, I got interviewed by Bishop Jakes' team for his magazine. I've been in Vice magazine. I've done interviews with NPR News. It just really took off. And I think it was primarily because nobody wants to talk about sex, especially in the church and especially in the African American church. And so this year, I'm excited because I have a new agent based out of New York, and we are working on releasing a book, a self-help book for married couples to talk about the sexual issues that they may be having. And so also working with a company out of LA for a potential reality TV show. I would actually be going into people's homes or in their situations, trying to help them figure out how to spice up their relationships, sexual relationship, which I do that now. That's a part of my business, actually. And then also, I'm working on a radio show where people will be able to call in and ask me questions pertaining to sex, and not only just pertaining to sex, but what does the Bible say about sex? Because a lot of us have had erroneous teaching, and I've discovered just over the years and the emails that I get from people that a lot of people would be more free in their sexual relationship if they had better teaching. And so in the church world, we tend to scare people into doing right. And so, and unfortunately, what happens is people think they're doing right, when in actuality, it comes down to preference. And it's not necessarily a biblical issue, but some people have moral issues that they try to impose on other individuals about what's right and what's wrong in the bedroom. And so where I step in is to say, look, here's what the Bible says about it. And I've had very detailed conversations with theologians, and they have all vouched for my theology regarding the scriptures that I use to back up what it is that I'm saying. And so, I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of inboxes, DMs, I get unwanted attention, I get, all sorts of things from people, and there are some people that really are on their last leg of their marriage, and they're like, DiShan, we need your help. And so there's no greater feeling to be able to go into these people's homes or step over into their lives and say, look, there is a connection that's still there. We just have to figure out what it is, and we have to jumpstart it. And once we jumpstart it, maintain it, and then they're off and running. And so my philosophy for me is that I wasn't able to save my marriage. Everybody knows that my marriage ended in divorce. And so I wasn't able to save mine. And so now I am on a mission to help save as many marriages as I possibly can as it pertains to those marriages who are lacking in the areas of sex. And so that's how I got that title. And like I said, every year God has blessed me to do something significant with it. I'm going to keep pushing with it until, it takes off nationwide. And so I've done workshops and seminars. I've had churches call me in, fly me into their locations to sit down with their marriage ministry. I was married for 17 years, so even though I'm not married now, I don't feel any type of way by doing it because I know that I'm qualified. I consider myself a marriage vet. And so, because my marriage did last for such a long time, and but people tend to listen to me and what I have to say because I don't want people to go down the same path that I went down, and hopefully we can lower that 54% divorce rate. I think it may have gone down now to 50%, but even still, that's very high. That 1 out of every 2 Christian marriages end in divorce. That's very sad and disheartening, and whatever little role that I can play in regards to lowering that rate, I intend to do that with everything in me. I don't care anymore what people think. Of course, I talk about things that are very uncomfortable, but it doesn't bother me anymore. I just say what it is, and I don't sugarcoat anything. If anybody follows me on social media, and I know you do, I do not hold back on what I say.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think a lot of times, yes, things should not be said from the pulpit of the church, but there are things that need to be spoken to the lives of individual marriages to actually change that divorce rate, as you say. And I thank you for joining me on some different workshops and coming in and live streaming and help teaching people, because that, like you said, is one of the key components to a healthy relationship that is missing. So if you want to see DiShan work with me, you can definitely join me at www.relationship service station, because we have some things that are going on and some live stream where she is teaching about keeping the sex and keeping your bedroom jump started so the flames don't die. I appreciate you because you actually bring forth some of the things that we are missing inside of the walls in marriage ministries, sometimes in couples ministries, that are missing from our church, the physical edifice. But as the people of God, we really need to reach out and fill in the gap, because I think we put too much pressure on the pastor to think that they are supposed to be able to facilitate all of these ministries. That's not possible. So as being part of the Christian body, we really have to tap into whatever it is, the gift that God gave us, and actually save people in other ways. It's not about just leading people to God. It's about leading people in their whole Christian walk. And that's about their relationships. And I am glad that you have joined us here tonight. We have a few more songs coming up, and I want you to stay on the line with me for a little bit longer if you can, to give out, if you can think of one thing that you would want to make sure that every relationship heard from you if they didn't hear anything else you said tonight. So kind of think about it. We got 2 songs that are going to play, and one is from Jordan Felice, and it is Never Too Far Gone. That's something that you need to realize. It's never too far gone if you're willing to do the work. And then a lot of times, if we're honest, by Francesca Bastiglia, if we're honest, and that's the thing we have to be in life in order to make a change. We got to be honest, we got to be transparent, and we got to be real about the things that we want to occur in our life. So we're going to hear those two songs, then we'll hear back from Miss DiShan Washington. She's going to close us, and then I will give you all a message to let you all go for this evening.